Okay. I don't know. I don't know. Are we live? Are things happening? I don't know what's going on. Hopefully you can hear me. If anybody's watching this and would like to jump in the comments and just let me know if everything looks and sounds decent. Been messing with this stream, trying to get it up for the last hour, and I thought I had everything squared away, and then all of a sudden I have this little transparent border around the screen. I don't know what the hell happened there, but I can't figure out how to get rid of it, so I guess it's just gonna be there. So yeah, if anybody's watching, thanks for joining to my live stream. This is Cameras and Mics Oh My episode 2. It's a stupid name for a live stream, but that's all I could come up with. If incidentally, the camera we're using to stream this today is the Blackmagic Design Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, which I like to refer to as the DaVinci 6K. And the microphone we're using is the AKG C214. So that takes care of the cameras and mics, oh my. I don't know what I'm talking about. Looks like nobody's watching, so that's fun. I'll just keep going anyway. So if you do watch this, today we're going to be building out a quote-unquote cinema rig for the A7S III, this little guy right here. And so that's pretty much what I'm going to do. Just go piece by piece and assemble the rig as I envisioned it. It's really dark. And, you know, something like this. This is the thumbnail that I took for this stream, and that's more or less what it's going to look like. And if you have any questions about, I'll just, build it and maybe talk about why I chose some of the pieces that I chose and maybe some alternatives if I know of any. And if you have any questions or comments about, the things that I chose, just let me know. And I'll just go ahead and get started. So the cage that I went with is this tiny little dude. This is the Tilta half cage for the A7S III. And I went with this one because when I bought it, I was, I guess maybe in the back of my mind, anticipating building out a rig, like a bigger rig, or having the option to, but it wasn't my primary concern. So I went with a half cage because I do like half cages. I like to have the camera grip as opposed to the cage grip. Just find it more comfortable. But this was a lot smaller than I was anticipating. And it has, as a result, it has some pros and cons, I think, due to its size. What I do like about it is how form-fit it is to the camera, and also how the fit and finish really match the camera well. You can actually buy this in like 3 different colors, but I chose the black. It really matches the camera body almost perfectly. It also comes with a little magnetic tool here to tighten down. One of the other negatives I have with this cage is that it only attaches to the camera on the bottom 1/4-20, and as a result, it can twist on the camera. So that's annoying. It also comes with a little plate on the bottom, which I can't find right now. It's somewhere around here. And that's for attaching a Tilta 15mm, what do you call that thing? Excuse me for a second. I'm gonna open up another browser window here. If anybody does watch this ever, I have everything in this rig is in the description of this video or the stream. Most of them are Amazon affiliate links. So, if you have any interest in purchasing them, that would be great if you did it through the affiliate link, but no pressure. And I also do have some affiliate links directly with Tilta and SmallRig. So if you want to cut out the middleman and buy directly from them, which is what I did for the most part, you can just use those affiliate links if you wish. What was I looking up? I forget. Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I guess it's just a base plate 15 millimeter rod clamp rail block. So base plate / rail block. Anyway, it comes with a little thing here that would just, if you did buy the Tilta base plate / rail block, you can just slide it right on and lock it down. I don't have that because it's like $120 just for the thing. And I already had a 15 millimeter rail block, which you're going to see here in a little bit. So maybe sometime down the line I'll buy that, but for the time being, I don't have it. Okay, anyway, I don't know how this is going to go in terms of order, but the next thing that I got for this cage is a little Nato rail adapter. And this is the Tilta one specifically manufactured or advertised for the new cages that they have for the A7S3. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You could literally buy any Nato rail adapter. I've got a few. Here's a big one. Here's a larger one. Anyway, I don't know why I showed you that. This is going to be hard. Oh, because I'm going to lose stuff. I don't know where I'm going to put everything. So these just screw down, obviously, into the 1/4-20s on the top of the cage. I also did a review on this cage, going over my, what I thought about it. It doesn't have a whole lot of mounting options, but it only has 1/4-20s, and it has 1/4-20s with little locking or locating pins that seem to be designed for Tilta branded stuff in particular. So there we go. And the next thing I'm going to throw on here is a top handle. The top handle I went with is this one from SmallRig, and the reason I went with this one is because it has a record button on the top. So that's fancy. And they have different mounting options for this top handle. I went with the one that is a Nato rail. So you just slide that onto the Nato rail and then lock it down. So I like how it's toolless, which is always good. So that's kind of what I prioritized with this rig build, was as toolless as possible. And I really do like this handle. If I had a complaint about it, is that it's not molded for your fingers. So it's just a flat bottom. It's not uncomfortable necessarily, but it's not the most comfortable one I've ever used. Another reason I went with this one is it has a locating pin connection on the front of it. And I also bought this SmallRig monitor mount, a swivel mount, that has that locating pin connection. And again, you can buy these with different connections, like accessory shoe connectors or probably Nato rail connectors. All sorts of options out there. This one's nice too because it's toolless, but you can put an Allen key in here. Just want to make sure you tighten it down really well. Next thing we'll put on here is this little Hdmi clamp, and this is the Tilta one for their new A7 cages, A7S cages. And you can see it has that little locating pin that I was talking about. So this cage has 1/4-20 locating pin, 1/4-20 locating pin. So it's definitely, they have their own pieces in mind here. And they also ship out with a lot of their stuff these little magnetic tools. So I have like 4 or 5 of these floating around now. One thing that I find annoying is that in order to actually clamp the HDMI cable in here, you do need an Allen wrench. But there's a reason for that, because with the new Sony cameras with these doors here, if you open up the headphone out port, or no, excuse me, this would be the 3.5mm mic input, it would block your ability to have a little thumb screw here. And if there was a thumb screw here, you wouldn't be able to open up this port door. So that was just kind of a compromise I guess they had to make. Let's see. No comments. Maybe if I remember every once in a while to check the comments, I will. If anybody does, in fact, comment. I guess I'll just I'll go ahead and throw a lens on here. And this is the Sigma 24-70 DGDN f2.8 zoom lens. And this is just kind of a placeholder lens for this build. But just so we have that in place. What do we have next? Let's see here. I guess we'll throw the base plate on here. So I have a couple of components here already attached. This is a Manfrotto quick release plate. So this will take your standard Manfrotto tripod plate, and that slides right in there. And then you just lock it down. And that way you can just attach the tripod plate to the bottom of the camera and then just slide the camera on and off this base plate contraption, so you don't always have to have. It's just easy to get on and off. Underneath this Manfrotto quick release plate is a SmallRig 15mm base plate, or what did I call it earlier? I forget. This is kind of just a standard one. It's not really meant for any one particular camera. As a result, it would just bolt onto the bottom of the camera, which would be kind of a pain because there's also another piece here that goes on the bottom. You bolt the camera to that. No, excuse me, you bolt the camera to this one, but you'd have to remove this bottom piece. I have the bottom piece, but if the bottom piece were on here, then you would throw another tripod plate on the bottom of that in order to slide this whole thing on a tripod. I'm not going to bother with that. Hopefully you guys get the idea. But this works well enough. There's one problem with it, and I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to put this Manfrotto plate on the bottom of the cage. Another reason I like this cage is that it has 2 1/4-20s lined up in a row. So you can attach 2 1/4-20s on the base plate, which makes it so that the camera won't, or the plate won't twist, which will happen if there were only 1 1/4-20 on here. And if anybody ever does comment, let me know if that music is annoying. I think it's pretty low, but if it's distracting or just irritating, just tell me and I'll turn it off. So yeah, then you slide the camera on and then just tighten down this base plate, or this little locking lever here. So now you can add 15mm rods to the camera. So the negative about this base plate in this rig in particular is that it blocks access to the battery door, which would be one reason for going with the Tilta base plate if you ever wanted to do that. But I already had these pieces, so I didn't feel like spending more money when I could just, do this. It is easy enough to just loosen that and then slide the camera back a little bit to open up the battery door. So that's one negative. The next thing we're gonna attach are the 15mm rods, and these are really cool. I just got these. They're from Kondor Blue. Thankfully, they're not blue, as many of their products tend to be. They're kind of this gunmetal gray, and they have holes cut out of them to make them lighter. So that's fancy. Pretty cool stuff. And I want more length on the back and the front. Something like that. The reason for these rods now would be a couple things. You can put follow focus, obviously. I think I should slide the camera up on this plate. Yeah, hold on. And you can put things on the back like a V-mount battery. Oh, what's up, Anson? Welcome. Thanks for joining. How's it going? Please don't make fun of my stream. I know it's probably pretty bad. Okay. So there we go. 50mm rod, so you can put follow focus on the front of these and a V-mount battery adapter slash V-mount battery on the back. This one I just got. This is from SmallRig. I think this is relatively new. And the reasons for picking this one up in particular is that it's adjustable. So you can adjust the angle of the V-mount battery adapter, or the V-mount plate and the V-mount battery subsequently. A lot of these tend to just be like vertically mounted with no adjustability. So I thought this one would come in handy, and I think it does. The other really cool thing about this one is it has a lot of outputs for powering. So in addition to most V-mount batteries will have a couple of D-taps and maybe USB outs, this one adds to that. So you get a D-tap on this side here, and then you get USB out, and then you get a couple of different 8-volt and 12-volt outs with like the 1.2 and 1.5 millimeter connectors, I think they are. Another really nice thing about this, which I didn't really consider, but when I got it, I think is going to come in handy. It does have some 1/4-20s on the top and bottom of it. So I really am liking this so far. And just make sure I can open up the LCD screen and then just lock this in here. It is made out of plastic, which isn't uncommon, I think, for V-mount plates. That's the only other one I've had is the one for the Ursa Mini from Blackmagic. But it seems pretty durable, hopefully. So there you go. And like I said, you can adjust this angle. So if you wanted it to be flat, it could be flat, which I could see coming in handy, or at a couple different angles, depending on how you wanted to balance it. If you wanted to make the rig longer or shorter, potentially. All right. So when I got this, realized that there were 1/4-20s on the back. It gave me an idea for mounting the wireless video transmitter. These can be a hassle to figure out a mounting point for. And what are you working on, Anson? What product are you reviewing? Can you divulge that information? Maybe a sneak peek for all 1 or 2 people who may watch this aside from you. Let me pull up a screenshot. Hopefully I won't make this whole thing crash. Let's see. Yay! So this is the picture, a BTS picture from a documentary that or reality show. I'm not really sure what it's going to be actually. That I've been shooting on this fall, and I guess you can't really see in this picture very well, but you can see the antenna sticking up. That's a Serve Pro from what's the big company that does wireless transmitters? I don't know. I can't remember. But anyway, figuring out a way to mount these things, it can kind of just get like cumbersome and top heavy really quickly. As you can see, like if you typically want to mount it to the handle or something like that, which is cool because this has a shoe mount. So this could go here on the handle, or it could even go this way. So this is doable. But I thought having it back here might help balance the rig out and keep the profile a little bit lower. One thing I'm not sure of yet, because I haven't used this aside from just running around the house with it. I wonder if having it back here might cause some sort of interference, because if you're holding the camera like this, for instance, and you've got the wireless transmitter sticking up, your body might be blocking signal from a lot of the different sides, but I'm not sure. So we'll have to see if I ever have to use this with a wireless transmitter on a job. If it does, affect the signal, then I could just always move it to the handle somewhere and kind of get it away from me. Let me go ahead and... No, okay, we'll just keep going with this. So this is another little swivel mount for a monitor, and this one is from Hdmi. This one has, so like the SmallRig had the area locating pin connections, this one has just 2 1/4-20 connectors on it, which I thought was annoying. Hdmi sent this to me when they sent me this monitor. This is the C6S monitor, and then they sent me this along with it. But I thought it was kind of annoying that it had 1/4-20s on it, but it actually turned out to come in handy for the purposes of this build here. Oh, I should probably go back to this. Wow, that was awesome. All the things I probably just wanted to show you, you didn't see because I had the thumbnail on there. Or that little picture. I'm an idiot. Oh, Teradek. Thank you, Anson. That's what I was trying to think of. Firecrest SmallRig neutral densities. That's something I'm going to talk about here when we get kind of towards the end, is the fucking problem, pardon my French, with neutral density filters on these kinds of cameras and lenses. It's just, I haven't been able to figure out how to make it work. Oh, since I didn't have the camera on me because I'm stupid. What I was trying to show you was that mounting the transmitter on the back here might be an issue, because if you're holding the camera, I like to hold the camera like this, kind of across my body. With the transmitter right here, my body might be blocking the signal. It's obviously not blocking it going up that way, but it could potentially blocking it going that way. So I don't know how well that's going to work. But if it does cause some signal issues, you can always just try to mount it up here, in which case it does have the shoe mount, so you could mount it right there, or you could mount it this way. So there's some options. I'm going to leave this aside for now. Look at this cute little battery, man. This is from Moman. And this is a 99 watt-hour V-mount battery, but it's freaking tiny. I knew it was tiny. I wanted a small V-mount battery, but until you get something in your hand, sometimes you just don't realize how small something is. So I haven't tested this out very much, so I don't know how well it's going to work in terms of powering, because I wanted to power just about everything on this rig through this one battery. It's 99 watt-hours, and it's 6,875 milliamp hours, and it provides up to 14.4 volts. So we'll see. And it has it's got 2 DTAPs, so DTAP on either side, and then a USB on 2 USBs on the top, USB Type A's. So paired with this battery plate, there's a ton of power options on this whole rig. So that's pretty cool. So there, that just locks in like that. And with that, the rig is a little bit back heavy, but we're going to add more stuff here. So we can balance it out with a monitor. What should I put somewhere? I think Anson says, I think they tried to send me one, but I don't use V-mount that often. Are you talking about the Moman? Yeah, so it's been a while. It's been a couple years since I've owned any V-mount batteries. I used to have the Ursa Mini Pro. I sold that, and I sold the 2 V-mount batteries that I had with it. Yeah, so a lot of the work that I do, the cameras that we shoot on, sometimes have V-mount batteries, not always. But it's cool because back when I mean, I think this kind of like all these mini batteries are relatively new. I mean, they've been around for a few years now, but um, yeah, it makes it a lot less cumbersome. So this is the Hdmi C6S. I did a review on this if you want to check that out. And so the reason I have an Atomos Shinobi monitor, the reason I went with this one, or kind of prioritizing this one, is that it does have an HDMI out. So the Shinobi doesn't, which is pretty stupid. I did realize that there is an issue with this, and I'll show you here in a second. I was hoping to be able to just mount this right on here and power it from the V mount using the DC input. So there's a 12-volt DC in on this monitor. The problem with it is that it's right here, and it interferes with the SmallRig monitor adapter, or whatever you call it, the mount. You can get it, so if you rotate the monitor a little bit like this, then you can plug it in. And it's not the worst thing because, like I said, I kind of shoot across like this when I'm holding a big rig this way. But it does make the monitor tilted. And so it can kind of be hard to figure out if you're level or not. So I'm not feeling this like I thought I would. However, I still like the SmallRig monitor mount because when I want to move this whole thing from this rig, then this comes in handy. So this monitor mount still works. I'm more likely to have the camera kind of in front of me and looking down at it or up at it or whatever, more straight on. And so this will work fine. And then I won't have the V-mount battery to power this, so I'm going to have to run it with its own NP-style battery. So it kind of works in one case, but it doesn't work for this big rig case, unfortunately. Andy Trollinger, hey man, welcome to the stream. Appreciate you being here. How are you doing? We're just moving right along here. I don't know how long you've been in the stream or watching, but we're getting places. I'm going to start plugging things in, I suppose. Clang. All right. So here, here's just the HDMI cable. This is just something from Monoprice, which is a really great company to buy your kind of standard HDMI cables. They have basically any kind. So if you need really fast cables, you can get them from them, and they're freaking cheap. You know, they're usually $10 or less for, you know, something around a foot to 18 inches or less. I even have some 6-foot cables to run to my to do stuff in the studio here. So yeah, they're really great options for buying cables if you don't want those braided or corded cables, which I know can be nice. But these work fine because they're pretty flexible, so you don't really have any issues routing them where you need them to go. I was kind of debating whether to get some Kondor blue cables, but I just don't like the bright blue, and they're expensive. I mean, they're not the most expensive, but they also charge shipping on top of the cable, so it can get a little pricey. The next thing is the cable for the SmallRig handle. So in order to actually trigger the camera, it does need a USB connector. So this, and they smartly gave you some little routing places here. So plug it in to the handle with the USB-C connector, and then you can run it through these little routing channels and then down into the USB. I think it's micro USB at the bottom of the camera. So not too bad. Get those back in there. And let's see. Oh, as far as the monitor, like I was mentioning, so the DC input here is, I wish it were further out because I do have some conflict here. Another way to mount the monitor, which is a little bit less elegant, is just with a regular magic arm. And this one's really great. I've had this one for years. This is from a company called Axler, and I think they're just kind of a company that just rebrands other people's stuff. But this is a really nice magic arm. What I like about it is that the ends here you can actually put in a 15 millimeter rod adapter, so you don't even need quarter 20s or 3/8 inch screws to mount this to things if you had some rod adapters. But they do have threads in them, so I put these adapters in here. So one's a quarter 20 and one's a 3/8 inch adapter. So you can just thread this one into the handle and then mount the monitor on here, which works really well. You have a lot more flexibility with positioning the monitor at various angles than you do with this one that's kind of stuck on here. We can really only tilt it. And then that obviously frees up the DC input. So that's something that you can do. It does. So one other complaint I have about this handle is that I wish that there was like a 3/8 or quarter inch thread somewhere towards the front of it. As it is, they're all down here where you're actually gripping it. So in order to mount this on here, it'll go into this first 3/8 inch thread, and then you just have to kind of grip around that. It's not terrible, but it's not ideal. So that would be my suggestion for SmallRig. Firas Hamden. Hope that was close. He says, this guy's underrated. His videos helped me buying Rode mics. Are you talking about me? Or Andy? Did I talk about Rode mics? I talked about the Pod mic a lot, I guess. And I guess the Rode Wireless Go. I think I've done a video or two on various different Rode mics. So I appreciate that. And thanks for saying I'm underrated. I think I'm probably overrated, but it's getting hot in here. Okay. Let's go ahead and put on the transmitter. So this does have a shoe mount on it, but it also has a quarter 20. So you can just thread this onto this little monitor thing. And then you can position this how you want it to be, and for optimal balancing purposes. And it's pretty decent there. Like I was saying, potentially in the back here you might be blocking the signal, but I won't know until I try. So for now, that's a good place to have it. And otherwise, if I could take off the monitor from this front monitor mount, put it on this magic arm, and then mount this to the SmallRig monitor mount on the front. So that could be an option. Or like I was saying, you could mount it to these shoe adapters, or these, shoe mounts on the back of the handle. All right, so let's plug this one up into some power solution here. So I've got a couple of DTAP I think these are 2.1 inch connectors. And let's put this somewhere. Figure out the cable routing here sometime. And then HDMI into the receiver, or excuse me, into the transmitter and out from the monitor. I think I'm just going to go ahead and throw a battery in this monitor so I don't have to rig it up with the magic arm. And then I can power it on. So hold on a second. Hopefully this has power. Or it's charged, hopefully, a little bit. And like I was saying, my idea or my hope for this whole rig was to just be able to run everything on external batteries. But just for the purpose of this stream, I'm just going to throw this MP battery in here. Oh, I guess before I get way ahead of myself powering everything on, I also do have a matte box. And this is just a cheap matte box. This is the Tilta mini matte box. And I think you can get this for about $100. And it's a clamp on, so it goes right onto the front of the lens. Although it does have a rod adapter, so you can use this to support the matte box, but it's pretty damn light, so you don't really need to use it, but you can if you want to. And then it comes with 4 adapters for different thread sizes. So it's got an 82, 77, 72, and 67 millimeter adapters. So these will just screw on to the front of your lens. And then there's a little locking screw here. Just loosen that up and then slide this on to the adapter and tighten it. And there you go. Now, I rarely ever used a matte box, but there have been times where I've had to flag off the lens to keep flares from getting into it. So it would have been handy to have a matte box. But a lot of times you want flares for the stuff you're doing or the stuff that I'm doing. Like this documentary / reality show I've been working on or shooting for the last few months. The director, he's like, give me the flares, man. Give me all the flares. So we don't use matte boxes for that. But the other reason, and you hear this a lot on YouTube, is like making your rig look more professional, which is kind of like one of the main impetuses for building out this whole thing, is to make it look like a serious camera. And I've always kind of like thought that was dumb. But I have had people question the camera choices that I've showed up to shoot jobs with, and it's usually old white dudes who think they know something about something. But this might preempt that kind of speculation about the quality of the stuff you're about to give them. But usually the quality of the stuff you give them if it's good enough or if it's really good, then it will shut them up anyway. But this may help. But really, just to talk about why is, I guess, going back to, let me do this here. Going back to this picture, you can see I've got the C200. This is Will, the other main shooter on this thing. He's using the C70, and we've got these big DZO Cine zoom lenses on here. We've got the Serve Pros from Teradek and battery solutions on the back. So these are like 20-ish pounds. I'm not sure. I've never put them on a scale, but they're really freaking heavy. And you can see that we have the easy rigs on them. Without the easy rig, it would be really hard. So we're shooting this documentary about high school football team here in Middle Tennessee in Nashville. And the reason it's important for somebody is because the coach is a former NFL quarterback, Trent Dilfer. And so it's really like a documentary about him, but also about the program, kind of like a Last Chance U kind of thing, maybe. And so we film like interviews and events around the school and things going on. But we also film a lot of the games. So we're filming the games, like what's happening, but we're also filming like the sidelines, so the coaches and the players. So we're filming for a few hours at a time. So anyway, without the easy rig, it would be brutal, to say the least. But on this shoot, they're also renting out for some of the bigger games my A7S3. So here's just a little quick iPhone capture of my A7S3 a couple weeks ago with the Vazen 50mm t2.1 1.8 times anamorphic lens. And this has an EF mount, but for some reason the rear element on this lens was like protrudes really far into the mount, and this wouldn't even mount on the C200 apparently, which is an EF mount camera. So go figure. So we used a Metabones adapter, EF to E mount adapter, and then we just had to run it on my A7S3. And you can see here, this has got the Hollyland Mars 400S on the front of it, and it's got this Andy monitor on the top of it, and it's got MP batteries in both of those. That lens is more than 3 pounds. So this is not only really freaking heavy, but it's also really freaking front heavy. And we only have 2 easy rigs for the shoot. Earlier in the day, we were shooting the homecoming events, and I tried mounting the easy rig to it, but it was just so front heavy that it wanted to sit, like this on the easy rig. So I was having to pull it back to try to level it out, and I was just fighting with it. So I just didn't use the easy rig at all for the homecoming, which was short. But then for the game, I ran that thing the entire game, and it sucked. I mean, it was heavy, and so that's kind of another reason for building out this so if in the future I ever find myself in that situation again, I could mount the easy rig to this and it'll be much more balanced. So there you go. All right. Matte box. Another thing, so you can mount follow focuses on here. I've got, again, this is the Tilta mini follow focus. I've had this guy for a few years, and I'm not going to mount it. I mean, it just goes right onto the 50mm rods. It comes with a gear adapter. So I put the little geared adapter onto the Sigma lens. But I would never really use a follow focus on a lens like this because the autofocus is so good. There's really no point in doing manual focus with these native lenses for Sony's new cameras. And then for this lens right here, a follow focus makes more sense. But without the easy rig, you can't, so having a follow focus on here, you can't support any of the weight of the camera with your left hand or whichever hand you want to use the follow focus with. So that means you're carrying the whole rig with just one arm, as opposed to focusing with your hand right on the lens. Means that you can hold underneath the camera, so you can use both your arms to support the weight of it. So unless I had the easy rig, which is now suspending the camera from your hips, ideally, and your back and shoulders, not ideally, but a little bit anyway. That way, you could use the follow focus there because you're not holding the camera with your arms anymore. But anytime that I'm ever holding a camera with my own arms, my own body, well, I guess my own arms, I would never use a follow focus. So that's just my 2 cents on that. I also have the Nucleus Nano wireless follow focus. This, however, would be pretty cool because this is designed to work with gimbals. So it's meant to be powered via the gimbal. So they have a 12-volt output on most gimbals. You power the motor with the gimbal power, but it is just a micro USB input. So you can power this wireless follow focus with this rig. And then you could pass off the focus wheel to a remote focus puller if the situation ever called for that. So this is a really budget way to get into like a wireless follow focus system, because this Nucleus Nano is only like, I don't know, $200 or less, but their bigger follow focusing system is more like $1,000, which is designed, not to work on a gimbal, but on anything essentially. But this you could use just like that bigger system without a gimbal. So if you ever did find a need for having a wireless follow focus puller, a wireless focus puller, a remote focus puller, then this is another way you could do that. You can also attach these gears to the zoom ring if you wanted to have somebody zoom for you, if you needed to do that for some reason. All right. So let me go ahead and finish getting everything powered up. The last thing that I need to power is the camera. So I decided not to go with a dummy battery route because the A7S III doesn't have a little cutout to pass the dummy battery wire through. So in order to run a dummy battery in this camera, the battery door has to remain open. which is something that I don't have, good feelings about. But you can power the camera through a USB battery, which I happen to have here. So this goes into the USB-C connector on the camera. Oh, I don't know why I undid that whole thing. And then you can just plug this into any of the number of USB Type A connectors you have on either the battery or the battery plate. And what did I do with that little Velcro thing? Probably fell on the ground. I don't know. Got some extras here. And the good thing about this is that you have the internal battery in the camera, and this will just, keep that battery charged up. So regardless of the charging status of your V-mount battery, so if your V-mount battery dies, you'll have the internal battery in your camera, and that'll be charged. So you kind of have a backup, which I think is a better way to do it. You don't have your battery door open with a dummy battery, and once this battery dies, it's going to power the camera off as well. So you would potentially lose a recording. But this way, you've got the, oh, I got to turn this on, battery being charged. And this has an on button here. So I turned it on. There's a little blue light. You can see that this is getting power. And if you were able to see the back of the screen on the camera itself, you can see that it's also thinking that it's plugged into power as well. So the only thing so far that I don't have running off this battery and is just the monitor, and I explained the reasons for that earlier on. Anson says, bro, I didn't tell you. I picked up a hybrid camera. What is the world coming to? Is it the Panasonic S1H? I mean, you've had hybrid cameras. Your channel started out with, I think, the A7 III maybe, and the GH5 before you moved into the Pocket Cinema camera. And the Sigma FP, isn't that technically a hybrid camera? Doesn't that shoot photos? No. Is that no to the S1H? Did you get the A7 IV? I went old school. How old school? Oh, XT3. Interesting choice. What lenses? Oh, I guess you're just adapting everything to what your Leica lenses and stuff. So that's cool. That's a great camera. Nothing wrong with that camera. The form factor, I think, would be probably the biggest gripe about it, but you'd probably just rig it up a little bit to make it. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's hard to beat. Like I think I do like I love Blackmagic. I mean, I watch your channel, I watch your live streams all the time, and I know you have kind of a big boner for Blackmagic, which I do as well. I've got the OG BIMC, the Pocket Cinema camera. I've had that for years. I used to have the Ursa Mini Pro, and that's one of my favorite cameras ever. And I've been shooting most of this year. A friend of mine has lent me his Pocket 4K and Pocket 6Ks. And I've been shooting tons of YouTube videos. The only thing about the Pocket cameras that I don't like is the form factor. I just think I wish they would do like a modular kind of box camera with like the same features, kind of like Panasonic has done with their box cameras. But so you got the 23mm f2 and 16mm f2.8 for YouTube. Oh, so those are the native lenses. Gotcha. Yeah, man. And this is the first camera that I've ever had, the A7S III being the first camera that I've relied on autofocus, and it's so freaking good. I mean, it's amazingly good. Every project that I've been hired to shoot since I've had this camera, I've just used autofocus, and it's better than anything that I could do manually focusing. It really is. It's amazing, and with like the eye tracking. It just locks on. And the other really cool thing about it is, unfortunately, I plugged everything into it, so I can't just slide it off easily. But what you can do is, like, when I'm hand holding it, just use the top handle, and I'll just support the using my left hand, just hold the screen kind of lightly, and then just tap back and forth to different things that I want to focus on, and it just like smoothly racks focus. It's just crazy. So yeah, autofocus. It really is the next. I mean, I know that there's always going to be place for manually focusing, and I still do. I mean, this whole documentary thing that I've been shooting this whole fall is all manually focused lenses, and that's not going anywhere. But for people like me, and I know you do, like you're pretty much you're doing all of your own production. You know, you're the oftentimes the talent, the camera operator, etc. So, you know, having an autofocusing camera can be a lifesaver. So yeah. I think that's pretty much. Oh, let me power. Actually, is this connected? Oh shit! Somebody got to remind me to turn it back to me. So just to show you, now I have the wireless transmitter hooked up, so you can just kind of take a little tour of my studio here. You can see the Pocket 4K back here in the corner, and got the Rodecaster. There's the receiver. And yeah, there we go. I think that's pretty much everything that I have. Like I said, you can do a follow focus if you want. I'm not a huge fan for solo operators. I think if you're going to run a follow focus, having the whole rig on a tripod would be the only way that I would want to have a follow focus on there if I'm the one pulling focus. Anytime it's handheld, I just don't find them to be that beneficial, because the other thing too is, like, you know, you don't have that other point of contact on the camera body and on the lens. And I find that I'm often kind of like tilting. Is anybody getting seasick? Tilting the whole rig, as opposed to when I have my hands underneath it. I feel like it's just more stable and more level. So for me, like, the follow focus scenario is never good for a solo operator. But of course, you might have a different opinion, which is totally fine. I really think that's everything, aside from just some cable management issues here. I think that's pretty much that. Like I said, I would mount the monitor with this magic arm so that I could power the monitor with the V-mount battery as well, and also have the ability to tilt the monitor towards me if I'm holding the camera this way. And that's what if anybody's ever run with an easy rig, especially on a big rig like this, you know, you can have it out like this if you want to, but that's just going to be pulling on you a lot. So what I like to do is just kind of keep it tucked into my body. And the other thing about an easy rig is that it doesn't stabilize the camera at all. It actually makes it less stable, because like the camera is just bouncing on a string essentially. So I just find that being able to pull it in close to your body helps keep it more stable. And I'm just saying all that because then I would want to tilt the monitor towards me. The follow focus becomes even less of a thing, because then my arm would be like all weird. And so that's pretty much that. So I'm kind of curious to take this on a job and show up and be like, here's my camera. It's a red. Maybe I'll put some stickers or decals that say red on the side and see if I get away with that. And maybe I'll raise my rates and see what happens. Well, to anybody who is still here, I really appreciate you tuning in, and hope you enjoyed it slightly to some extent. And maybe I'll keep doing these. If I can come up with another topic in the next week or 2 weeks, maybe I'll do another one relatively soon. I think the next thing that I'm thinking about is moving this out of my face, is not buying any more gear for a year. I think that's what I want to do. I spend way too much money on camera gear, and I do make some money back, but I don't think I make enough money back on it. So I want to kind of just see, can I go a whole year without needing to buy anything new? And if there's something that comes up where there's something that I need, I'm just going to rent. So maybe we'll talk about that, or maybe I'll just do a standalone video on it. But that's kind of my idea. So let me know how you think about that. Otherwise, appreciate you watching. And I guess I'm going to sign off. So take it easy. Have a good rest of your Sunday. And happy Halloween. I totally forgot it was Halloween. Hope you get to do something cool, fun, family-oriented, scare some kids, whatever floats your boat. All right. See you later.